War is a serious and tragic event that affects the lives of millions of people, but sometimes the reasons behind conflicts can be downright hilarious. From a missing bucket to a stolen pastry, let's take a look at the most bizarre and absurd incidents that caused a war. First on our list we have the War of Jenkins' Ear, which took place between Britain and Spain in the mid-18th century. Captain Robert Jenkins claimed that the Spanish Coast Guard had cut off his ear during an inspection of his ship. This led to a decade-long conflict between the two countries, with Britain using the incident as a rallying cry for war. Next up, we have the Pig War, which took place between the United States and Canada in 1859. The dispute began when an American farmer killed a pig that belonged to a British settler on San Juan Island, located between the two countries. This led to a standoff between American and British troops, with both sides preparing for battle. Fortunately, the conflict was resolved peacefully, and the island remains a peaceful park to this day. Moving on, we have the Football War, which took place in Central America in 1969. A soccer match between Honduras and El Salvador led to a brief but intense conflict between the two countries, fueled by existing tensions over land reform and immigration policies. The war lasted only a few days, but it resulted in thousands of deaths and the displacement of thousands more. Now let's talk about the Emu War, which took place in Australia in 1932. The Australian military was sent to hunt down emus in Western Australia in an attempt to control their population. However, the birds proved elusive and difficult to kill, and the operation was eventually abandoned. While not technically a war, this bizarre incident highlights the sometimes absurd lengths that humans will go to in order to maintain control over their environment. Moving on, we have the Pastry War, which took place in Mexico in the mid-19th century. A French pastry chef's shop in Mexico City was destroyed during a riot, and the French government demanded compensation. When Mexico refused, France sent troops to seize the port of Veracruz. The conflict was brief but costly, and it resulted in the establishment of the Second Mexican Empire. Next on our list, we have the War of the Oaken Bucket, which took place in Italy in the 14th century. A group of soldiers from the Italian city-states of Modena and Bologna stole a bucket from a well in the town of Zappolino. This led to a battle between the two sides, which ended in Modena's victory and the bucket being displayed as a trophy. While the conflict itself was relatively minor, the bucket became a symbol of regional pride and is still on display in Modena to this day. Finally, we have the Toledo War, which took place in the United States in the mid-19th century. A dispute between the states of Ohio and Michigan over the border between them resulted in armed clashes and the mobilization of militias. The conflict was eventually resolved through negotiation, with Ohio being granted control of Toledo and Michigan being granted statehood as a result. This bizarre incident highlights the sometimes absurd nature of territorial disputes and the lengths that people will go to in order to defend their land. While these incidents may seem humorous in retrospect, they highlight the fact that conflicts can arise from the most unexpected of sources. Whether it's a missing bucket or a stolen pastry, the human desire to defend what is perceived as ours can sometimes lead to tragic and costly consequences. So the next time you hear about a conflict or war, remember that there may be a more absurd and bizarre reason behind it than you might expect. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. And if you know of any other hilarious incidents that caused a war, let us know in the comments below.